Hey Chais, it's Kai and I'm spooked.
Why are you such a coffee cat?
So hello, it is midnight right now, but I have just been in the mood to film for the past few days. Every video I watch just makes me want to film something even more. Not even necessarily something like that video that I'm watching, but it just makes me want to film something. And spooky things have been happening lately, and as you guys may or may not know, I am more than ready for Halloween. By which I mean Halloween season, because by the time that Halloween happens, then Halloween's over and nobody cares anymore, and I'm ready for the spook. So you guys saw the title of this video. I just kind of feel like telling ghost stories, okay? And I've already told some on my channel, and there's some that I really want to retell because I don't know, for some reason I felt like there was like the flames were getting big, and I'm not sure why, because they look exactly the same as they did 2 seconds ago. Anyway, I've been feeling real creeped out in here a lot of the time, like some weird shit's been happening. But today I wanted to tell a story about a ghost that was actually like really cute, and it was like a happy experience, and so I don't know, I just thought it'd be like a nice change of pace. Without further ado, let's just get into it. So okay, the house where my parents live right now is out in the country in North Carolina, which is actually where I'm from. What's up? So we moved there in the summer of 2006, so I was just now done with 6th grade, right? And I was about to go into 7th grade, and we moved into the country, into this old house, and by old house I mean it was pretty old. It wasn't like ancient or anything like that, but it had some history. So this house was pretty old, and as I would come to find out eventually, pretty freaking haunted. I actually don't know if I've mentioned this before. Haley Reese in one of her videos was talking about how she had a portal in her house that spirits would pass through, and I to this day think that there was one in the attic of that house. My family doesn't fully believe me, but that's because a lot of them like either don't believe in ghosts, or like even if they've had some experiences, they're kind of like, I don't know, and whatever. But I had a lot of experiences there, like a crazy amount, and most of them didn't seem connected, which is weird because usually if there's like one ghost around, like the experiences are going to be similar, or at least it's going to feel like the same energy. I'm very like susceptible to energies, and so if it's a different energy, usually I can tell. But anyway, yeah, there are a lot of like mini stories about that place, and I could group a bunch of them together in a video if you guys would like. Some of them are hard to explain because some of them have to do with like my mind's eye and things like that. Like there's one that was like really terrifying that like nothing physically ever actually happened, and I never physically saw anything, but the energy and the things that I saw in like my mind's eye and whatever like scared me so bad I was like outside crying on the phone with one of my friends, like desperate for my parents to come back. So let me know if you guys want to hear that story and things like that. I just haven't talked about those because it's like harder to put those into words into a story time. Anyway, I'm in the middle of a story time right now, so I should probably focus on this story. But like I said, this was a pretty old house. I still think that there was a portal in the attic. It is what it is. However, not all the spirits that I experienced while I was there were from the portal. There actually was at least one that like was attached to the house. And again, some spirits are, you know, like there and like know what's happening. Some of them don't. Like there are different kinds of ghosts. I'm gonna do a video on those eventually. But this ghost, I'm pretty sure, was like somewhere in between. So we bought the house. We bought it from like this nice couple. Before them, someone else had lived in the house who was also related to the neighboring house of our house. And there was a nice old lady who lived there, and she lived with her husband, I believe, and I don't remember if it was her son who had lived in our house, or if it was her dad who had lived in our house, or her brother. Maybe it was her brother. I texted my mom before this to see if she remembered, but it's literally midnight in California, which means in North Carolina it's 3 a.m. right now, and so I texted her probably like 2 in the morning, so she's not awake. Regardless, that lady was related to the guy who owned the house that we had now moved into. At least this was my understanding at the time. Again, I was 11. Now, the guy who was related to the neighbor actually died in the house. And we didn't know this going in. We found it out much later, actually, like after this story starts to take place, which is why it kind of spooked me so much. But I wanted to just go ahead and let you guys know ahead of time so that it's not like I'm like telling the story and I'm like, and then someone died. Like, you know. But yeah, apparently that guy had died in the house, and his room was where my parents' room was because it was the master bedroom, of course. And he had a wife and also kids, and they stayed in the other big room, which was right across from the master bedroom. So the way that our house was set up whenever we moved in, it was like at the very end of the house, like my parents' room was here and our room was right here. The one that I shared with my sister was right here, and then in between there's like a bathroom, and then the hallway goes right here and cuts this way, and then over here is my brother's room, which was later my room once I was in college. And then if you keep going that way, there's like the kitchen and then the living room and, you know, all the doors to outside. So there are no doors to outside in the back area where our rooms are. I don't know why that matters, but so basically that guy was staying in this room, you know, the master bedroom that my parents also stayed in, and he had, I believe it was, he had a heart attack while he was asleep. Again, it was kind of a very sudden death for him. It wasn't like he was super old or anything like that. So I believe that like his spirit was still restless, and that's probably why he was hanging around the house. But spoiler alert, I guess he was hanging around the house. So the first time I had an experience with this guy, I remember, like, I mean, I always felt weird in that house because the first time I'd ever had a paranormal experience was in the house we lived in before that, back in Charlotte, which I told a story time about that guy as well. I may or may not retell it, but whatever. So I already knew what it was like to be around a ghost, and I just walking in that house felt like weird vibes, especially once we were already fully moved in and everything. I was like, something's weird here, like I feel eyes on me, it's weird. And it didn't feel threatening, at least not then, but you know, I could tell that something was off. And there was this one time, I remember I was in the bathroom. Let me just set this up for you again, and actually I should be more specific about like the placement of the hallway in regard to the living room and everything else. So like if you're sitting in the living room, right, like if the living room is right here and the kitchen is right over here, the end of the living room's right here, the hallway starts right here and goes down, and you know, rooms and bathroom and whatever. I wish I could just like go into that house and show you like this is what everything looked like, but basically the way the living room was, it was like here's like the end, you know, and it goes around and whatever, like front door's over here, and then there's a hallway, and you go down the hallway, and then the hallway curves like that, and the bathroom's right there. Does that make sense? So you can't see the bathroom door from the living room, but if you're against that wall, you can see the hallway, which also means that at the end of the hallway, when it goes down like this and it turns, my parents' room was right here, and then my room goes down this way. Not like it was even really like a big hallway at that point. That was like with the end of it, and so it was just like little walkways, but like that's where everything was. So for a while we actually had a couch pressed against the end of the living room wall right here. This takes place on a weekend morning. I keep saying weekday. It was a weekend because my dad was home and we were also all home and not at school, and it was the morning time and everybody was in the living room. I believe we had breakfast beforehand or something like that, and then everybody was hanging out or whatever. Whatever the reason was, everybody was hanging out in the living room and like watching TV together. Now remember, there's a love seat against this wall, right, that looks down the hallway. I got up and I went to go to the bathroom. So everybody in the house, literally every single person is in the living room except for me, right? I go down the hall, I go to the bathroom, shut the door, they can't see me. I can still hear them like joking and laughing around or whatever, and then I heard them say something and my name. The way my sister tells it, and I'm pretty sure it was my sister who saw it first, but my mom also saw it, I believe. I think they were sitting together on the love seat, but apparently they looked over and saw like someone in a bright orange t-shirt, like bright orange, like, you know, like the traffic cones that you see or whatever, like that was the color of the t-shirt. They saw like a bright orange t-shirt, which I wasn't even wearing a bright orange t-shirt, so that's weird, but they saw just like the end of it as someone was going into my parents' room. So like if I'm in the bathroom at the end of the hall, right, my room's this way, my parents' room is this way, and the hallway is this way. They looked down the hallway and saw someone going into my parents' room in a bright orange t-shirt. And they thought it was me at first. I actually did have a bright orange t-shirt back then, so like that's probably what happened. They just forgot what I was wearing because I barely remember what I'm wearing at any time. So anyway, so I come out of the bathroom and they look confused, and my mom goes, "Did you change?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about? I just went to the bathroom." Everybody looks confused and she's like, "You didn't go in my room?" I was like, "No, I went to the bathroom and came back. Like, you can see me. Like, that's all I did. What do you mean?" Like, we generally weren't allowed to go in our parents' room unless like they asked us to get something or if they were in there. Like that was generally the rule, especially if they left the house, they would lock the door because there were like guns and stuff in there, and so we weren't allowed to go in their room. So it was like a thing, like if one of us is going in their room and not telling them about it, like it's weird. And so my mom's like getting concerned and whatever, and again, we were the only ones in the house. They like get up and go check their room and there's nobody in there. And so then my mom winds up telling me that they had literally seen someone go in their room in a bright orange t-shirt, but now I'm not wearing a bright orange t-shirt and I'm swearing up and down I didn't go in there, and everybody's confused. I don't think my brother saw it. I'm pretty positive my dad didn't see it, but like I said, everyone was in the living room. It's not like somebody else walked in and out or anything like that. And if I were going to go in the room, I would have to come out of the bathroom and then go past the hallway and then come back out if I were going out. So regardless, they were already looking down the hallway. When I came out, I went like this and just went down the hallway. So they would have seen it if I was trying to go in there. And there was no one in there. So that was what happened first. And at some point after that, my mom found out that the guy had died in that house or whatever, and she told us, and we're all like, oh, well that's spooky. My dad was like, oh, that's who you must have seen, and we all kind of laughed it off, but I'm convinced to this day that that's who that was. And I mean, things would happen like that all the time. You'd think that you saw someone, but you actually didn't, or you know, you'd feel eyes on you or whatever, like things would happen. So it was like kind of spooky, but it wasn't like dangerous feeling, if that makes any sense. Like the first house I lived in, that felt scary and dangerous in every single situation. This one just kind of felt like, hey, there's a dude living here even though there's not a dude living here. You know what I mean? I think I've said before, it's just like the same feeling as like when there's somebody else in the room with you and you know, you're talking to them versus when you're sitting alone in your room, except that you don't actually see anyone in there, right? So yeah, so that was happening, and just little things would happen. And again, that house was super haunted, so I don't know what I can attribute to him and what I can't. However, remember I said that my sister and I shared the room right across from my parents' room, and that's where that guy's kids used to stay because it's the second largest room in the house aside from, you know, like the living room or whatever. I mean, there are only 3 bedrooms in the house, but still, the one that my brother stayed in and that I stayed in later on was like a really small room. Like you don't need more than one person in there, and even one person in there, like you're not gonna want to spend all your time in your room because it was tiny. But the room that my sister and I shared was definitely big enough for 2 people. It was probably like the size of a dorm room, if that makes any sense. So I remember, and this happened a lot after this one incident, unless I'm remembering wrong. The first time that this happened, our beds were separated, and every time after that, of course, our beds were still separated. So our bunk bed was like a wooden one, and I don't remember where we got it. I don't remember when we got it exactly. But when we decided that we wanted our beds separated, basically my dad came in with like a chainsaw. I don't think it was like a chainsaw, but he did just like separate the beds by cutting the wood. So we put her bed on one side of the room, my bed on the other side of the room, and we would move our room around all the time. It's just always been a thing that I've done. But at the time, if you come into the room, the doorway is right here. My parents' room, hallway, doorway, like my parents' door, my door, like it was literally like that, like shotgun style. And then immediately to the left side was my bed. So it's like you walk in the door and you look down and that's literally where my bed is, like right there. There was a little bit of space between the doorway and my bed because there was like just enough space for like a little nightstand type thing, but still my bed was right there. So my bed's here, her bed's here, the doorway's in the middle, right? And the door opens up and like, you know, it like blocks off that bed. For whatever reason, we used to sleep with our door open, and my parents slept with their door closed, which was the weird thing. Like, I guess it was probably because it was like nice knowing like, oh yeah, my parents are right there, blah, blah. But it still weirds me out because that hallway was so eerily dark. Like it, oh my God. When we moved in, it was one of those houses that was like covered in wood paneling and whatever, and it was like there is no street lights anywhere around where that house is, and so everything is just pitch black. It was freaky, to be honest. I don't think I could do it anymore. I have to sleep with these lights on at night. So like I sleep on either side, you know, I kind of alternate, or I'll sleep on my back or whatever, but usually I'll sleep on my side. And a lot of the time I tend to sleep on my right side, and sleeping on my right side meant that I could look up and just look right at like the doorway. But I remember I was laying on that side and my eyes had finally drifted closed, and I was laying there and I felt like I was about to drift off to sleep, and then something like jolted me awake. Like, you know, the feeling of like, okay, anytime anybody walked in my room, and this is still true to this day, like if Connor like opens the door and walks out, it doesn't matter what time it is, I will wake up. Even if you don't make any noise, like just the feeling of somebody coming in, and my brother can attest to this. Anybody who has ever like stayed in a place with me can attest to this. If you walk in my room at nighttime, I will wake up. So I was, like I said, starting to fall asleep, and then I just got that feeling and my eyes snapped open. Now again, it was very dark, so I didn't see any like distinct features or anything. And as much as people like to say sometimes that they like physically saw a ghost, a lot of the time you're not gonna physically see a ghost. I'm sorry, it's just less likely. Like, I don't know, it is. You know, like you can feel things and things can happen, you can hear things, but generally you're not gonna see like a fully formed human standing in front of you for the most part. However, this time I did. Like I said, I didn't see any details, but I saw the figure of a man in a t-shirt. I couldn't see the color because it was nighttime, but I saw this figure of a man who was like kind of tall, kind of stocky, just like leaning in my doorway, and his arms were kind of crossed, and like I could see him kind of just like look down at me, look over in the direction where my sister was, and he kind of stood there for a minute like scanning the room, almost like a dad would like come in and scan the room and just like make sure everything's good, like, you know, nothing's out of place, the kids are sleeping, like it is what it is, great, great, great. And then he just turned around and walked away. I didn't hear him walk away, nothing like that, but I saw him like push off the wall and then he was gone. Wow, I just got kind of freaked out remembering that. Again, it wasn't like a freaky feeling, it wasn't like, oh my god, like, I'm terrified, you know, and it also was very clearly like, this is not like a real man standing in my door. I mean, not that he wasn't real, but you know what I mean. It's not like a fully formed, like living human standing in my doorway staring at me. But I could see that there was a man in my doorway, just kind of like crossing his arms, leaning against the frame, you know, the door frame, and just like checking on us. And then once he was satisfied, he left. I don't know if it had ever happened before then. I'm assuming not, because again, I feel like I would have woken up if it had happened. But after that, it started happening almost every night, you know, and it got to the point, like, we never acknowledged each other. I don't think he was the kind of ghost that like was sentient, like aware that like we were new people in his house. I think he was just going through the same motions that he used to. And I think that's why we saw him sometimes. Because again, that's another kind of ghost. I don't remember the name for them, but basically just like, you know, recurring, just like thinks that everything's fine. And so he's just like getting up in the middle of the night and whatever, and like standing in the doorway and checking on us and whatever. So yeah, and even during that whole experience, like there were some creepy things that happened that were genuinely terrifying. And I can talk about those at some point again if you guys want to hear about that. Some truly scary shit. Like honestly, like I used to hear breathing in my ear, and by hear breathing I mean literally hear the sound of someone breathing right here in my ear and feel it on my neck like hot breath. And then I would turn around and of course there would be nobody there. One time I was putting together a puzzle and I literally felt like somebody grabbed my head and yanked it that way, and it literally like hurt. Like it yanked my neck so far that I like pulled a muscle in my neck and it was sore for like a week. I got a lot of shit like that, like a lot of little stories that I've honestly forgotten about, because over time they just kind of add up and you're like, well, that was a little experience. I'm not going to tell this huge story about it, because yeah, there are some huge stories and then there are a bunch of teeny tiny little ones. So like I said, if you guys want to hear those stories, please let me know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. Yeah, I just thought it would be cute to do something that was like a little bit different but still spooky, it's still ghost stuff. And I want to do a lot more like spooky stuff on my channel in the future. I actually last night filmed a like reading creepypastas. It went kind of weird because apparently in the app you have to like pay for it to unlock the stories or share it or download an app or whatever, and even then it's like you can only do it per story, or you can pay $2 to unlock all stories, which is just but if you guys have any ideas, like I will also look it up on my computer and maybe like email them to myself so that I can do it that way or whatever. But also, hi, I love Loey Lane. She's my actual fave human and also my friend and a really good YouTuber. And you guys should go check her out. I'm definitely stealing this idea from her. I mean, it's like a trend on YouTube, but it's like I got the idea from her and I always just want to emulate her because again, she's my favorite. But if you guys have any scary stories that you would like me to read on camera, please send them to my email. It's suchacoffeecat@gmail.com. I'll put it across the screen right here. Yeah, it's a business email, which means I don't really use it a lot. So if you guys want to just send me stuff there that I can review on camera or whatever, please do. Even if it's something you don't think I would necessarily do, send it to me just in case. You never know. Also, even if it's one that I'm not gonna read on camera, I like spooky shit, okay? I like getting creeped out, so send me things, thanks. Anyway guys, that's gonna be all for this video. Let me know, like I said, if you want me to do any spooky stuff like that, send me your stories. If you have any specific creepypastas or anything like that that you would like me to read, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, especially to this week's shout out of the week across the screen right here. I'm getting really creative with these hand motions, but hey, guess what? You're the best. You're the bomb. I don't know why I keep doing this like awkward thing every time I'm doing shout out of the week now, because every time I say you're the best, and then after that it's just kind of like I feel awkward now. I'm gonna do something weird, and then when I'm editing it out I'm like, God, why? I will continue to keep my eye out for spooky stuff. Let me know if you guys saw anything in this video, because I did feel weird during it. And okay, I've been keeping a note on my phone because ever since I did that paranormal update, more things have been happening like more rapidly, and so I've been like jotting them down for you guys. So I'm not gonna like tell you a bunch of stuff that's been happening, but I've been hearing whispering. I will go ahead and say that. And earlier when I was talking about spooky weird stuff and like psychic things and like dreams that I've been having, and also I've been seeing repeating numbers so I was asking myself if I should talk about the numbers thing and everything else today, and then my camera stopped recording, so I'm gonna take that as a no. But I was telling Connor about that kind of stuff, and then I literally, she made herself known is all I'm gonna say, but I need to make sure that I remember to type that out on my notes so I don't forget, because it was so spooky. But anyway, I'm gonna go. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I've just been in the mood to film a lot lately, and I figured I would indulge myself and get a little bit spooky today. So we're ready for Halloween and October. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Give me those thumbs and share this video if you like me. I could use the validation, and let's just spread the spooks this year. Caught a case of the spooks. I caught that like 10 years ago, let's be real. I came out of the womb with spooks. It's a bloodborne illness. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Okay, I'm really gonna go. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I love each and every one of you. Stay cool, my dudes, and I'll see you in the next one.
Why are you such a copycat?
There's no point in me having coffee now, but bye.